right, everyone. Welcome to the very first edition of EMC's Event Exchange podcast. We are so excited to have you with us today. And before we jump into our topic today, I want to introduce you guys to the CEO of EMC Meetings and Events, Jody Wallace. I'm so excited to co-host this with you.
I am so excited to be here.
We're going to talk all things events, leadership, attribution, event portfolios throughout this podcast. But tell us a little bit about the company and why you decided you wanted to launch this video podcast.
Well, after 28 years in the hospitality industry, probably working for many of the big boxes out there, I decided that with the actual owner of the hotel I was at, that we would start our own meeting and event planning company. So what a great opportunity for me, what a great opportunity for something I had desired all my life. It was to be my own boss and my own business owner. My father was an entrepreneur, so I think it's in our blood. Yeah. And nothing was more exciting to me than after 28 years in the hotel industry, and you can just imagine when you work in the hotel industry, the hours you work. And I always said, if I'm going to work this hard and this long, I might as well start my own business. And that's what I did.
And EMC is having a big celebration this year, so tell us the big accomplishment.
It's hard to imagine, but we are celebrating come August our 25-year anniversary.
It's quite the accomplishment. I mean, the longevity and you've survived quite a few bumps in the road. Tell us a little bit about your survival of some of the world's craziest moments.
There have been several bumps in the road for sure. And I understand the word resilience for sure. So, of course, we went through in the 80s, the recession. Oh, I have to back up. When we opened the doors for the business in August, that was the Twin Tower situation. So we literally had 2 employees and no work for 6 months. Although it did give us the opportunity to build the business probably more than I would have during that first 6 months of time frame. And then, of course, next was a recession in the 80s that we went through. And followed by that was, of course, the COVID pandemic. I think there was another recession between there as well.
Yep.
So it's been quite a few bumps in the road. We've learned from all of them. It's as I look back, I think I've become the strongest during those times. Really understanding where we are, what matters to stay afloat, and what matters in the business to move it forward.
Yeah. Resilience is a very great word to describe the last 25 years of EMC's history.
Yeah, it feels good to have come out of all of that stronger and more impactful than I think we would have been had it not happened through the course of the business.
Absolutely. And I think EMC's seen evolution through all of that and came out stronger on the other end. So tell us now, why is now the right time to start the event exchange?
Well, after 25 years of building the business, it's interesting that when you start a business as we did, 25 years ago, the business we started isn't the model we have today. And so there has been quite the evolution through the company. So what started, and I'm sure this goes back to my roots in the hospitality industry, we started more of a sales organization or a national sales office that you see in our event industry. And after several years of only focusing on conference centers, our clients wanted more than just a conference center, resorts, maybe an off-site day venue conference center. So we evolved into sourcing much more than just the traditional conference center. And then those customers next wanted more services. And so, well, what kind of services? Well, can you do some planning? Planning? Sure. So then we started doing planning. We actually hired a full-time planner. And that was so successful that one planner actually managed 12 meetings for us. Wow. Now we're doing almost 900. So we've evolved because of our clients, really. They wanted more, we gave them more. And so through all these years, we are now excited to say we're full meeting management journey in the company.
That's amazing. So, as the company is evolving and doing more in the industry, seeing a lot of the changes, not just the evolution of EMC, but the evolution of events, why is now the right time to launch this video series?
I think part of it is just what I've learned over the past 25 years, an opportunity to share, especially sharing the perspective from the client side and really understanding what happens on that side to deliver on our side the vision. And the goal, I have a goal to really work with our clients to a whole nother level of getting events at a much higher level than they've been. I think sometimes events are looked upon as good fun to have, hospitality, more driven, and they're so much more than that. And we see that all the time when we're managing the events we manage for our clients.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that relational because there is the gap between the impact of events on a business is getting a lot smaller, moving from just entertainment and hospitality, where events were thought of, to their really big business drivers. So before we get into that conversation on this first episode, tell us what people have to look forward to in this new podcast.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're going to go to a lot of places. We're really going to go through the entire event journey from start to finish. We're really going to start at the very, very beginning, which is objectives and vision of an event and what the event will deliver back to the company. And then we'll get into all of the various areas that contains. So experiential, marketing, branding, moving into the technology solutions that help drive the ecosystem, moving into audiovisual production, then moving into on-site and really managing to the expectations of the attendee experience, as well as the goals of the corporation as well. So, and then we're going to end with my favorite, not everyone's favorite, but mine, the nerd that I am, data and analytics. So what's the return? How do we measure the success of an event?
That's amazing. Oh, well, that brings us right into our first topic of this episode. And as we mentioned, that a lot of times there is that gap between events and how it connects to pipeline and retention, customer relationships. You know, a lot of people are worried that AI is going to take jobs and take away from that human experience. And now more than ever, people are flocking to events because they're craving the human experience. But businesses have to be able to tie that into like why they're doing it. And as you said, the return on that. So thinking about closing that gap, when we talk about event-led growth and running more and more events, where do you see events playing a larger role in business growth? I mean, EMC, when you first started out, you guys were running meetings as a way to grow the company and get your name out there. So tell us a little bit, how does a CEO start thinking about events as business drivers?
Well, to me, events are at a premium. That is where you're connecting with your clients and building those relationships. That is where you're having your deals are being made. That is where your company is forming its culture. It's getting its brand positioning out there in the market. And that is where you can show return. So an event isn't, again, a hospitality. It's a revenue driver. It's a brand driver. It's a deal driver. It's forming those relationships for your business. And it's all those moments of culture, driving culture for your company. So all the above. And so we don't look at events any longer as the boondoggles, I guess, of yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We look at them and what's the impact it's going to have to the business and the business's goals and objectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think teams struggle so much with that? You know, events a lot of times are reactive. They're usually the first thing to get cut when budgets are getting tighter, even though I think we know that that's typically not the best way to minimize a budget and tighten things up. So why do teams struggle connecting the dots so much?
They look at the cost or the expense of the event, not the purpose. So if we think about the purpose of the event and all that I just mentioned, this is when you want to be with your customers more, not less. You don't cut your events because this is that opportunity. You may scale them in a different way. So today events, as from my lens, is it's not size that matters. It's not the larger the better. It's who's in the room that's impactful to your business. And I think that's where more and more leaders, CMOs, VP of sales and marketing, field marketing, whether it be an event or trade show event, is moving. How do we take this event to really make that connection and that human connection that people are striving for today?
Yeah, I think intentionality is becoming more important when we think
Love that
about
word.
events and portfolios and not just doing events to do them, but being intentional about, as you said, people that are in the room, who's in the room, why are they there?
And strategic and alignment. We all have to be aligned. Sales has to be aligned with marketing, marketing with sales. They're the drivers of the client. And then there's a vision of the event. And when all that comes together, then we have an amazing, impactful return experience.
And where do you see, I mean, you work a lot with big corporate groups. Where do you see those events team fitting in the organization structure? Because that is, this, I think we'll call this episode evolution of the events world, right? So I think we've seen the events teams evolving within internal structures. Where do you see events sitting? Because they're not a siloed team anymore.
They're not. They're an important part of the team. Events, in my opinion, live under marketing. That's where I see it. And I see it there because they're the ones that are driving the objective and the revenue side of the business. And the brand, again, back to the brand positioning, back to the impactfulness. So sales, again, aligned with marketing, marketing aligned with the event team. And I think it's important that there is an event team internally within an organization. We're an agency, so we're working with that internal event team. So they're inside strategy, they're inside ensuring objectives are met and being measured. We're on there doing the heavy lifting of the event itself. So the audiovisual and production side, the logistical side, all the details that make an event work, the vision. Oftentimes we're helping them create the vision and how that experience is going to impact the attendees. So all of that, all the kind of that ecosystem working together is key. And internal event planning team, to me, is the strategy arm of the event. And we're taking that strategy and delivering that back.
I absolutely love that. So thinking about event delivery and the strategy, where do you think events are evolving? What's the future look like? Maybe the next, it's hard to always say that. I don't think anyone predicted a pandemic or global recession like we had in 2008, but in the nature of this episode of evolution, maybe what does the next 3 years look like, or maybe 5?
Well, a lot's changing. AI, of course, will help us change tremendously. You asked the question, will AI replace any function of the agency side or the events? My answer would be no. In my opinion, it only enhances what we're doing. It drives the efficiency. When technology first came out before AI, that was driving efficiency. Now we're at a much higher level of driving efficiency, of managing data, of getting results quicker, of getting the storyline told in a faster way, but still need that human side to really manage the content. And that can't come through an AI. That has to come through a human connection of understanding the strategy and the vision. So I see the next step will be using technology as an enhancer to a level that we've never seen before. And I don't think even I have ever seen before, but curious to go down that path with many of our partners. I think also events will become more, will change in their scope and their sizes. I think the big events, in my opinion, will become more regional events. Regional events will become more roundtable events. Roundtable events will become more one-on-one appointment events. So really being able to connect instead of being in a large room, that you don't really have that opportunity always to connect. You're only connecting with 15, 20, 30 people at an event. This way you connect with everyone at the event. And when you do, it becomes much more impactful than if it was, 500 people in a room.
Sure.
So
It goes back to the intentionality. And I think what I'm hearing you say is there's going to be depth to the conversations, where when it's big events, you only can speak to so many people for a short amount of time, sometimes very surface level conversations, and can really engage now.
Right. And the participant experience, we're doing journey mapping now. Every touch point through the entire experience, from the moment they receive communication and a registration for an event to what it looks like to actually fill out and see the company branding and the vision of the event and get excited about that from that point. Then take the next journey of communication before you even arrive, getting you excited to attend. That moment when you're checking in. So all of these touch points that go through an entire event now are being managed and looked at. So we make sure we're driving that individual customization experience for every person attending. And that to me is a big evolution. Because again, you're the one coming back, right? So you're attending an event. Why do you return? You return because you had connection. And probably the next thing I see after the event itself is a community that gets built event to event. And people are talking about it. I don't think a lot are delivering on it or really understand what that's going to look like. But there will be communities formed. There will be communication. There will be opportunity to have your own chat groups from one event to the next. So there'll be this whole micro system of community that will start linking one event to another and keeping people engaged until they return.
I love it. So what has you most excited about the evolution of events?
Well, the nerd in me. We always start with a vision of return. Everyone says it, return on investment. This has to return on investment. And the measuring of that return is not always the same or understood or created to drive the results. So that to me is a place we're starting to live in more, understanding what measurement do you want to achieve, making sure from the start we're putting those logistics into the journey, right? And into the program. So on the back end, we can measure it and look at the data to return it. I see that becoming the biggest next step. And there's companies being formed out there that are so far ahead of us, that we're having conversation now to help our clients understand, why aren't people returning to our events? What did people do while they were at our event? What did we miss? Did someone want to talk to us and not be able to get into an appointment and we missed that opportunity, right? Or if one of the measurements was post-event, there was some educational component. Are we measuring that educational component after an event is over? So that I see becoming one of the main discussion points moving forward, is as using data analytics, AI, to help us with that, those huge spreadsheets of tracking and information to really point us in new directions we never thought we would go.
Yeah, opening new growth channels and really understanding the insights that come out of that, and not just moving from one event to the next.
Correct.
So this is a whole conversation, and the nerd in me also could talk about this all day. So we're definitely going to have a lot about episodes about this. But before we move on, when you say return on investment, for a lot of people, that just means dollars and cents. Is ROI always just about the money?
No. Money's important. The deals we create are important. But there's many other components on the ROI side. Building culture, loyalty and brand, building relationships before the deal. So there's many more components on return than just numbers.
It's not every event is a pipeline driver.
Like I said, or just the expense of an event. The expense of an event sometimes is measured by just how much it cost, but not the value that was driven by it.
Absolutely love that. So, with that in mind, do you think in-person events are still worth the investment? When you're talking to your CMO clients and your head of marketing clients, are they scaling back? Are they scaling up? Like, are they still investing in events?
Oh, absolutely. So the answer is yes. To me, we have our Zoom calls or our virtual calls. And to me, those are such add-ons to the live event. An important part, in my opinion, of the live event. Oftentimes, that's where communication can take place. Know before you go. Maybe there's an educational training component before you arrive, or there's information sharing before you arrive. But we all know when we're on those calls and we're looking like this and looking like this on our phone, we can get easily distracted. And that's a struggle a lot of companies have. That's just the start of your event, right? Using that technology tool. But face to face, we know nothing replaces the connection. We learned that through COVID.
We did.
People could not wait to just be with a person and have that connection. And every event I'm at with, talking with the CMOs, and we look around the room and we say, look at the people connecting, talking, learning from each other, growing, and delivering on, again, goes back to those goals and objectives of the event.
Absolutely. So, what do you think companies should be preparing for if they're continuing to invest? We're changing how we're looking at the measurement and the success metrics of a program, what ROI looks like. Where should companies prepare to start taking their events? What should they do now to be successful today, tomorrow, 3 years, 5 years from now?
I would say, and we're involved in this with many of our clients, is stepping back. What are your goals? What do you need to accomplish? And what type of event will accomplish that? So do you want to bring your clients to an event and roll out new product and talk about, um, you know, where the company is going with that, with those clients? How about just reward those clients? So again, what's the strategy with your clients? What's the strategy with your employees? What's the strategy? And once you have your strategies down, then how do events enhance that? Because they do. So really coming up with a game plan. In our company, we call it game on. What's the game on approach? So we can really work with a company to say, the difference between a client event, a user conference, motivating, the sales team. How about rewarding the sales team with incentive programs? So all of these are part of the infrastructure of a company's event, the event side of achieving their event strategy.
So you're looking at not singular events, you're looking at full portfolio and where they are in, a sales cycle, a marketing funnel, where they fit across the organization.
Yeah, both from marketing to sales to field marketing. So we live in the corporate side, as you can you can tell by the conversation. So we're all about all the different components of those type of events that would drive client, employee, or customers' relationship building and sales.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that the future of events belong to companies that are combining the business impact with the human experience.
Yes.
And do you see your clients leaning into the human experience?
Yes. Yes, more and more. Because I did think they've gone through expense management, and they have seen what that costs them. So it costs them more than just saving on the event, right?
Right.
It costs them the opportunity to build their pipeline, their deals, motivate their employees. So that is where events drive a company's true impact and true prosperity.
It's amazing. Well, we've given everyone quite a few nuggets about what's to come on EMC Meetings and Events Event Exchange video podcast this season. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in. And what's the favorite part about EMC and what you guys deliver? Close us out on this episode.
I say to the clients all the time, when your events get brighter, your company gets stronger.
That's all the time for today. Thank you.
Thank you.